deserve to live in the light.
That's the endgame.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Thunderbolts has been out for a while. They've obviously retitled it New Avengers on all of the posters. Like, they're really laying into the whole New Avengers of it all, leading into Avengers Doomsday. There have been a lot of questions as to what Marvel is going to be doing with the Sentry in the Void heading into Avengers Doomsday Secret Wars, what their plan is for the character in Marvel Phase 7, like just in general, the future of the MCU. What are we going to see from Bob? There was even that first look at Avengers Secret Wars that seemingly depicted God Emperor Doom had captured Sentry and was keeping him in chains. Lewis Pullman, who plays the character, Marvel themselves have talked a lot about the future of the character, including the creator of the Sentry in the comics, Paul Jenkins. So we'll break it all down, because obviously he's one of the next most powerful characters that they've ever introduced. I am sure there'll be all kinds of power scaling questions once Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars starts, like who are the new, most powerful characters in the MCU going forward? We will just conveniently forget about the events of Secret Invasion. First rule of the MCU is you don't talk about Secret Invasion. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. They're in the middle of filming Avengers Doomsday right now. We're going to see Fantastic Four in a couple months, so it's really heating up. But because a big part of this is the way they set the character up in the Thunderbolts post-credit scene, careful for spoilers if you have not seen Thunderbolts yet, because we do need to talk about what happened during that movie. At the end of that movie, during the post-credit scene, it picks up 14 months after Val has named them the New Avengers. They're in the middle of that legal copyright fight with Sam Wilson, who wants to use the name of the Avengers for his new team that he wants to put together before Avengers Doomsday. But the way they explain it is that this 14 months later is literally meant to be the very beginning of Avengers Doomsday, with the Fantastic Four coming from their universe in their ship to the MCU. I know there's been all kinds of theories. People have been asking about some other character pretending to be the Fantastic Four, using their ship to make them think that it's a completely different group of characters. But the twist is meant to be them meeting the Fantastic Four in the MCU for the first time. That there is no Fantastic Four that any of these characters have ever met. So that's really the big turn that they're playing on. Like, who are you? We're the Fantastic Four. We come from Earth. No, this is our Earth. We've never seen you before. We will start getting more footage for the Fantastic Four movie, sort of explaining what's going on with that. And obviously, the end of their movie will set up this moment in them at the beginning of Avengers Doomsday on their side of things, too. Like, we're seeing the MCU side of things. We'll see the Fantastic Four side of things at the end of their movie. But one of the biggest parts of that post-credit scene with the big Fantastic Four reveal is also the big Sentry reveal, in that in the past 14 months, since they stopped Bob from becoming the Void and destroying the entire world, he basically went back into Bob form and has stayed in Bob form.
I got a shield too. It's not a shield. Yeah, it is a shield.
This is why they have the joke about John Walker's shield still being bent like a taco, like he called it a taco earlier in the movie. He was going to get Bob to bend it back when he went back into Sentry form. Like, we'll just get him to fix it after all this. But in 14 months, he never wound up fixing it, because the way they explain at the end of the movie, and Lewis Pullman, the actor who plays him, is that he's so afraid of the Void that he has completely suppressed the Sentry part of himself inside his own mind. So the way that Lewis Pullman, the actor, talks about it, the Sentry and the Void are just dormant inside, they're like hibernating inside of him, so to speak. Keep in mind that this post-credit scene picks up 14 months after the movie, and it's meant to be the beginning of Avengers Doomsday, so it seems like they're setting Bob up for a very Scarlet Witch and Hulk type of story like they got during Avengers Infinity War, where they're two of the most powerful characters in the MCU, like Bob is one of the new most powerful characters, Sentry inside the MCU, the Void inside the MCU. But during Avengers Infinity War, Hulk and Scarlet Witch were largely sidelined for most of that story. We know that Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom is going to be the main antagonist of both Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. The real big question is, how does everyone stop him? Well, the true answer to that in Avengers Doomsday is they do not wind up stopping him. That's how we get to Avengers Secret Wars, with them doing a slightly different version of what we saw in the comics. The Infinity War style downer ending that pushes into the next movie, where it's kind of like one big story broken across two films, even though there are very different types of things happening in both films, so that you can view them as separate films. There are a couple things that we know about the overall plot of the movie in Doctor Doom's storyline, in that he will at different times portray himself as if he is the returned Iron Man from the 616 universe, trying to play on all the MCU heroes. But at a certain point, his ultimate goal is the destruction of the MCU, like he's destroying universes in order to try and save the multiverse. Remember, this is a bit of an adaptation of Time Runs Out, where at a certain point, Doctor Doom came up with the idea to save the multiverse from the incursions by destroying key other universes, and in order to do that, he would kill Molecule Man in each of the different universes. What they've done in the MCU with Deadpool and Wolverine is they basically replaced the whole Molecule Man idea with anchor beings, but it's the same basic twist. The anchor being dies in a universe, and it begins to destroy the universe. Like, it begins to degrade much, much faster.
An anchor being is an entity of such vital importance that when they die, their whole world slowly withers out of existence.
So the early theory is that Doctor Doom shows up in the MCU trying to kill the anchor being. There are a couple different ways that they can use Bob Sentry in the Void at either the beginning of the movie or the end of the movie, depending on whether you want to think of him as like a Hulk type of character or a Scarlet Witch type of character, because she was more important at the very end of the movie, using her powers to try and kill Vision. Very tragic story to try and keep Thanos from getting the Infinity Stone. He still wound up getting it. At the beginning of the movie, they introduced the Hulk like we have a Hulk-type twist again to pay off the Loki moment, but Thanos is still powerful enough to overwhelm him, causing him to go dormant for the most part inside Banner and refuse to return till Avengers Endgame. Personally, I think Bob is a better analog for, say, like the Hulk character, just because they use him in a similar type of twist during the Thunderbolts movie, where Val gets the we have a Hulk moment. It's just a very dark twist on that original Avengers moment. Doctor Doom has fought Sentry in the comics, and he was in Sentry form. But if you're thinking about him in a more Hulk type of context for the live-action movies, you have to imagine them using Sentry in a couple different ways. He's important for a couple different reasons because of the way his powers work. Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom shows up, and at some point, Bob wants to use his powers to save all of his friends. Like, it's all about friends for Bob. Like, it's all about his found family, wants to save them. He finally relents, goes back into Sentry form to try and use his powers to save everyone. They can use a moment like this where Doctor Doom actually puts his hands on Bob, and Bob inadvertently winds up using his Void powers to give us a flashback to show us Doctor Doom's origin story and why he's doing all this, the same way they kind of did with Val during the Thunderbolts movie. They use that brief moment where she gets close enough in proximity and she goes into her mind, and we see what her childhood was like. It's a really easy plot device to get around a lot of exposition where a character would normally have to read a whole bunch of pages of dialogue to explain their backstory.
I am Iron Man.
30-second flashback, boom, character completely explained. Then, because Bob's mind is still so unstable, the really easy way for Doctor Doom to fight him is to not actually have to fight him. Like, maybe like a brief fight, because you do have to pay off that moment, like just have a fun moment of Bob just thrashing a whole bunch of Doctor Doom's people. You have to imagine he's going to have an evil Avengers team or an evil team of his own, whatever he winds up calling them, that shows up in the MCU to fight everyone. But because Doctor Doom is supposed to win, he has the strongest plot armor, he's probably able to manipulate Bob in order to turn him into Void form, so he becomes just as big a liability for all the MCU heroes. That was a big twist during the first Avengers movie, if you remember. Like, they built that case that Thor got stuck in to hold the Hulk if the Hulk went off the rails. Loki literally tried to use that twist against them, so you have to imagine Doctor Doom trying to use a similar type of twist to disable the Sentry as a really big asset that the MCU has. I've taken one of your most powerful characters off the board. And because we need to look ahead towards Avengers Secret Wars, like how do they wind up ending Avengers Doomsday, how many of the characters survive into Avengers Doomsday, I'm guessing at least a couple of them do survive, but a lot of them here probably do wind up getting killed at the end of the movie somehow. If Bob does survive to Avengers Secret Wars, when Doctor Doom becomes God Emperor Doom, if we're talking about comic book Secret Wars Easter eggs here, where he remakes a version of reality on a version of Battleworld, whether or not they use the Void from the Loki series and Deadpool and Wolverine for that, or a completely different world, we will see. Marvel tends to take the simplest path when it comes to stuff like that, and the easiest way to do a Battleworld in the MCU is just to use the Void again. But because Doctor Doom gains the power to rewrite reality, he can do whatever he wants. He can change everyone's memories. He can take Bob's powers away completely if he wants to. But I think the easiest way to deal with Bob during Secret Wars, like if we're talking about the second part of this, is to just not include him in most of the Secret Wars movie and just wait till like the very end of the movie when they start remaking the multiverse and fixing everything to then bring Bob back. There's just so many characters, like billions of characters that the Russos are trying to service in both of these movies, bring back a bunch of legacy actors. It just feels like it's easier for them to include a lot of these brand new characters in Avengers Doomsday and then kill most of them off, so that they can do different characters in Avengers Secret Wars.
I feel a storm brewing.
Then going forward in Marvel Phase 7, like this is the big thing, like how is Marvel going to deal with the Sentry character going forward? Like what other stories we're going to see him in? Marvel will probably use Bob, the Sentry, and the Void the same way they used him in the comics after they introduced him. Typically when they want to do a more psychological type of superhero story, a more thriller type of story, one's about addiction, recovery, where your main hero is also the biggest threat just because they're mentally unstable, kind of like The Boys with Homelander, where he is the most powerful hero on the world, but he's also the most unstable hero and potentially the worst villain that you could ever face. They were both created using special serums. They both have almost no version of kryptonite, like Homelander has milk, women, if you want to think about it, more psychological type of problems. Sentry doesn't have any real type of kryptonite, like he's a recovering addict, so you could look at like regular drugs or cucumber, like make all the cucumber jokes you want. But Sentry in The Void is a character that works with a more cerebral type of villain character who's a better foil for someone like that. Somebody who doesn't really have as many physical weaknesses, but many mental weaknesses. And really good villains for him would be somebody like Baron Zemo, Captain America Civil War style, where he's able to manipulate people, the heroes, long enough to create that level of chaos, getting them to fight each other for him until it's too late and they don't realize that he's behind everything until the end of the movie, which is why it is weird that you didn't see Baron Zemo during this movie. I did a deleted scenes alternate ending video where like there were a bunch of different versions of the movie, and in one of those versions, Baron Zemo was going to be the Kaiser Soze pulling all the strings behind the scenes. I would say another good villain for say like a Sentry or a Void type of story would be somebody like the Leader, but they kind of wasted him during Captain America Brave New World, or the Intelligentsia, but they kind of wasted that organization during the She-Hulk series. Villain groups that Marvel has typically shown to be capable of large-scale deceptions like that after they got rid of the Hydra organization. Generally, it seems like Marvel is so focused on doing more X-Men mutant-based storytelling in movies heading forward in Phase 7 and beyond that, like the mutant saga of the movies for like the next 10 years after this. There will still be Avengers teams, there'll still be other traditional MCU heroes coming back, but they'll be more like side characters, side stories. Like there'll always be Avengers movies, but they're really focusing more on the X-Men mutant side of things. So I kind of expect the same treatment for the Bob, Sentry, the Void character, where they're still around, like they're still active, but because he's going to be a recovering addict for the rest of his life, he'll still always constantly be afraid of the Sentry and the Void, because if he lets himself become Sentry again, it also basically opens up the world to the threat of the Void as well too. The way that Lewis Pullman explained it, he feels like suppressing the Sentry side of himself also suppresses the Void part of himself. So as long as he's in Bob form, generally the world is safe from the Void. Basically, it's a story about sacrificing his greatest superpowers in order to protect everyone from his greatest weaknesses. It's like the concept of recovering from addiction in real life. You never truly beat your addiction, you're always a recovering addict. Really good example of that is Robert Downey Jr. in real life. Like he was addicted to drugs for a long time, so he's been a recovering addict for all this time. Like he is still a recovering addict. Sentry will never stop being in recovery, so anytime they want to do stories that sort of lean into that darker type of storytelling territory, that's probably where you see Sentry come back. When it comes to really iconic matchups though, because they've been talking about doing more Hulk stories in the movies, and it seems like maybe eventually Marvel will work out their problems with Universal and be able to do a Hulk solo movie. Eventually they do pay off Hulk versus Sentry. Really cool moment from World War Hulk in the comics, and it does seem like Marvel wants to do a World War Hulk type of story in the future, and they're just waiting till they fix their problems with Universal to actually do that. Moments like that would be other things to bring Sentry back for, just really iconic moments that he's had in the comics so far. But he's a relatively new character, so there's just like a lot of other stuff that Marvel's focused on right now, post-Secret Wars, and that is the X-Men characters. But everyone, let me know in the comments what kind of stories you want to see them use Sentry for in the future, or iconic comic book moments. Given the style of a lot of the Russo brothers' type of humor, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some cucumber jokes during Doomsday too. There's a bunch of stuff coming up. I've got a couple more videos that I'm working on right now, and we'll get more Fantastic Four footage soon. Looking to that next, just because that is the next big Marvel movie. There's a couple big trailers coming, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Everyone click here for that Thunderbolts alternate ending, deleted scenes, alternate post-credit scene, and click here for my full breakdown of the movie with all the Easter eggs from everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.